The reality is just that, I think if we can come to a place in our lives where what we do and who we are integrated,
Absolutely.
that's sort of like, right, that's the highest.
That's authentic power.
Right, that's authentic power. It's what we talked about. And so whenever people ask me about these lessons, they're so intertwined.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that most people... I see a lot of people who think about like what I do is different from who I am, and I have a very hard time separating the two, obviously, as you can tell.
Explain that more.
Well, I think,
your job is not who you are.
Yes, your job is not who you are, right? So if you think about like you spend, and by the way, I'm not saying like have a job with like that leaves you with like no perspective on what's important in your life, right? But I'm saying that who you are at work and how you express your gift is as important. Think about spending 10, 12 hours a day at something, finding a passion at work that expresses who you are. And as I keep coming back to your unique gift and strength for impact, yeah, I think that's very purposeful.
It's important,
and I think a lot of people think like, oh, there's my day job and how I make money. And then there's, what I care about. And I'm like, well, my example in my lifetime, not just my dad, by the way, we give him a lot of credit, but my mom, she was a doctor as well. She was an entrepreneur. She didn't love entrepreneurship the way my dad did, but she loved serving people. I'm like, why can't they be integrated? Why shouldn't they be integrated?
Right.
Right. So so obviously I'm somebody who takes work too personally, while I think other people maybe have more distance from it. But I think it's all a reflection
Where they're
of how
like,
I grew up.
well, this is my job, and then I come home and I live my authentic life.
Yes, exactly.
But what if you could live your authentic life all the time?
All the time. And by the way, we all look.
And there's going to be things you don't enjoy doing about your work or your job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like everyone. But if you could be yourself and use most of your gifts in that role,
it would be great, right?
That's powerful.
Yeah, and of course, and we live in an era where most people want to go to work and feel even more so than ever that who they are is welcome and that they are included and what their values are fit. And I want the same thing. But this is not to suggest, by the way, I live some perfectly integrated life.
Right.
I'm like, this is making, this has a risk of people thinking
yes.
that I'm really good at this. What I would say is this is to your point, this is my intention and this is my worldview. So, as I said, I'm pretty convinced that the way I'm meant to express my gifts is through business, and that's totally okay and more than okay.
Yes. How do you express your gifts in business?
Well, I think you do it
How do you personally do it?
How do I personally do it?
Like when you're leading a company, how are you expressing your gifts?
Well, two things. I try and bring three things to any situation in business. Number one, I wake up most days feeling pretty grateful for the amazingly talented people I get to work with.
Yes, your team.
And so I guess when I work as CEO, I think of like both leverage and my gift is making other people able to be even more successful and think of themselves and accelerate their journey.
Yes.
Right? So I think I have that gift because I don't think I wake up every day thinking I'm the best person in the room. I think I wake up every day going like, wow, these are really talented people. And so what I know I can do for people is give them energy and excitement and passion and help them maybe drive faster than they thought they could go.
Right.
So I think that's one of my unique gifts.
That's great.
Number two, again, not that I think I'm so smart, but I love consuming information. I like thinking fast and acting fast. And so I like to think that, maybe a conversation, with me is one where people learn faster and where I learn faster. Like so it's not just my gift, right? It's what I enjoy.
Yes.
So I love interactions where you and I, like we have this interaction, we both leave. And it's like a super rewarding interaction, right? I consume a lot of information. I can give you insight, you can give me insight, and off we both go. And so I think I'm pretty good at consuming information and helping people give insight and gain insight by just asking lots of questions. So I think I process information. That's a gift, I think. But it's a gift to be used, right, to help accelerate outcomes for people and for businesses.
Right.
Those are probably the two big ones, just processing power and, passion, energy, ability to get people excited and make them realize that they're capable of more.
What are the three most interesting questions you think we should be asking other human beings? Whether it be in business or life in general, what do you think are three most fascinating questions?
Yeah, I think these are, I think the questions to ask yourself, first and foremost, I think everybody should ask themselves, what are my unique gifts? Like, as we talked about, like I think that these, this is a question I would ask you, but it's a question I think you should ask yourself, right? Like, what are my unique gifts? Because I think that when we can articulate what those are, it's not like we're full of ourselves in a bad way. We understand how maybe we can have the most impact.
Yeah.
And we seek out environments where that impact can be kind of known, seen, practiced,
Yes.
And realized. So I think that is the number one question people should ask
That's cool.
themselves is,
Yep.
what are my most authentic gifts? Number two, and of course, I don't know about others, I feel like I believe people should deeply know what they're not great at.
Before the interview continues, if you feel like you're not living your most authentic life, not leaning into your purpose, and not living the life that your future self would be extremely proud of, I've written a new book called The Greatness Mindset, and I think you're gonna love this. Through powerful stories, science-backed strategies, and step-by-step guidance, The Greatness Mindset will help you overcome all the different challenges in your life to design the life of your dreams and then turn it into your reality. Make sure to click the link below in the description to get your copy today. Okay, let's get back to this video.
And not just what are my unique vulnerabilities, not in the areas I have that will always be my work to improve. Like this is what my point. Like I sound like I'm sitting on some pedestal. I'm not. I can tell you, like my kids, I drive them crazy.
Yeah.
Like all of these same things that are gifts, as you know, have an edge to them that are pretty brutal, right? My kids would be like, Mom. Like,
What are your unique vulnerabilities?
well, they all are the downsides of my edges, right? I would wish that, like my father, I could make people feel. I know I can make people feel energized, but that same energy makes people feel pretty nervous, right? It has a dark side where it's like people can feel like, well, am I not enough? Like, what do I do to keep up with Sukhinder? Like, that's not really the point, right? I'm not here to make you feel less of yourself.
Right.
I'm here, so I speed people up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You start talking, I start talking, people are going faster, faster. So I'm pretty impatient.
Yeah.
So if you have high energy and it's always trying to be deployed, you're pretty impatient, right? You may not wait for someone to finish their sentence. You make somebody else feel nervous. So that will always be my work, right? And that is the downside of being a highly energized person, controlling that energy and that passion, right? So it's always at its most productive edge. That is it by a mile. That is that will be my work. And I have lots of other vulnerabilities, and lots of you and I both agree vulnerability is a good word, so I hate using that word.
Yes.
I have lots of other areas for development.
Areas for growth.
Areas for growth, tons,
yeah.
tons, right? But I would say what I'm aware of in myself is that one vein sprouts so many,
Sure.
It's like the root of a lot of evils, right? So that's probably my biggest, by far.
Okay. And then the third question we should all
And
be
the third
asking.
question I would say that people should ask themselves, I think it's maybe not a question you ask once, it's a question you ask several. It's a question you ask many, many times, which is what's possible now?
In just any area of life.
In any area, if you stopped and said, what's possible now that I'm not doing? Because I think that people, remember we started this conversation, I said people think the possibilities in big acts.
Right.
And I think possibilities in small acts. So if I see it, if it's what's possible today? Maybe that's the question. What's possible today? If I wanted to find more joy in a certain area, if I want to find more joy at work, what's possible today? If I wanted, and by the way, again, make no mistake, it's not like I'm perfect at this practice, right? I'm sure there's lots of things I should do, and I'm like, what's possible at home that I'm not doing today? But I do think that, there's a lot of power in small acts and starting now, right? And to your point, getting in that imperfect motion, right?
Yeah.
Versus waiting for the day where every possibility will be perfect. That day never comes.
Never, yeah.
It never comes. So I think if you ask yourself what's possible today, you probably unlock something today, right? I'm not saying any of us are going to be able to unlock it all in our, I live no perfect day where I unlock all the possibilities in my life. But yeah, I do know, the power that comes from unlocking even one possibility.
Right. That sounds like, that's a lesson you said from your dad as well.
Yeah.
Small and big possibilities.
Yeah.
When do you feel the most loved?
When do I feel the most loved?
When you're doing or receiving what?
We all feel loved differently. Well, first and foremost, for me, I feel the most loved when I feel accepted for who I am.
Gosh, I was having this conversation this morning with someone.
You were?
Literally an hour ago, I was
Yes.
like, I'm so grateful and appreciative to be around people that fully accept me for who I am. Don't judge me, don't try to change me, but accept my authentic power.
Yes, that's totally right. And I would say, I feel completely loved when people accept me for who I am, including my imperfections.
Yes.
And maybe also I feel loved when people see who I am, right? So we'll leave this conversation and I'll reflect on it. And it's that person saw a lot more of me, right?
Yes.
So I think when people see us fully, we feel loved, right?
Gosh, it's so true. And why does it seem like in general, there are a lot of us who surround ourselves with people who don't accept us fully? Or why does that happen?
Well, first
and
of all,
stay in like friendships or relationships
Yeah.
where someone doesn't fully accept the other person?
yeah, it's a good question. Well, first of all, remember that on the other side of that equation is somebody else who's also looking for acceptance. You know what I mean? So it's never like a one way, right? So while we're all going through our own journeys, looking for to be seen and loved, so is the other person. So I think part of the reason, like, it's sort of like ships in the night, right? Everybody is looking to be seen. So maybe what that means is when we stay in relationships, yes, we're hoping to be seen, but the other person is hoping the same thing. And maybe neither of us are engaging in like an authentic enough conversation with the other. Or, like we're so used to looking for it ourselves. And you're right, it's a surprise that we don't stop to give it to the other person. And maybe it's a two-way relationship. I don't know. It's a good question. Oh yeah. I mean, you could give I'm sure you have many more capable people on this podcast on this question than me. I'm not a psychologist. I am not, all I can come to is, when we love ourselves, obviously, two things happen. Number one, maybe we have our own renewable source of energy that's enough. So while we want to be seen by other people, when we love ourselves, right, we come to any relationship able to do two things more. Number one, see other people. You know what I mean? You're not so starved yourself that all you want to do from that relationship is take. But you can see other people and ask them the questions about how they want to be seen. But yeah, we all still want to be seen as well. So I think I'm just rambling. I don't think I have a good answer to your question.
I like this. Was there a moment when you fully fell in love with yourself?
I don't think I'm fully in love with myself even now.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm very...
like fully love and accepted yourself, not from like an ego standpoint.
Yeah, no, I understand. No, I mean, look, I still have all the same work everybody else does. I still wake up with imposter syndrome. I still wake up... Of course, I still wake up ashamed of some of the things I have, not ashamed. I'm not ashamed, and that's like ashamed of the things I haven't achieved or, the impact I still haven't had. Like, look, the book is an attempted impact, right? So clearly I'm still striving to do something. So, but I would say, so I don't consider myself all the way there by any stretch.
What do you feel an imposter about?
I feel like an imposter in the good way, like lots of people do. Every time... Look, I think if you're somebody who wakes up and says, my job is to have impact, right?
It's never finished.
No, it's never finished.
Never
and if you have the humility to understand that you are like, like as we talked about, like you're a speck in this universe, right? Yeah, most days I just want to wake up and make the most of the time I have. I realize it's finite and that I think I'm here for some purpose. That's what I was trained to believe by my own family spiritually, like we're all here for some purpose to give. Then mostly I'm just like constantly worried that I'm not fulfilling that promise. So it's not like a bad kind of like, right? It's not like I wake up and say, I don't accept myself. It's more like, I was like, wow, if I'm not pushing myself to do more and to have more impact, then I'm not really taking full advantage of why I'm here. So that's the kind of, and so by that definition, you're always putting yourself in situations where you may not be enough. But you realize the only way like you're going to have the impact you want is if you put yourself at risk to go. And so if you put yourself at risk, you feel like an imposter. You're like, oh, because you're practicing some act you've never done yet, right?
Yes.
So anyway, it's like, I'm good with it. Like I'm good with it.
Right.
So to your point, I don't like fully myself up. I don't beat myself up. I've mostly accepted that I have a worldview that says it's okay to be imperfect. It's okay that I never feel fully, capable. I'm pretty comfortable with being personally uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If I think this act is all about me, like that's a totally ridiculous statement.
Right.
So that's why I feel like, I love leaders like that, right? They're very confident and yet they're very humble.
Yes.
Like because and my father was that. Like he was like the most confident, like grounded in himself person I could ever imagine. He had complete humility because he's just like,